Hello, everyone, and welcome to Learnable Computer Science. Today, we'll be going over functions in Python, which is our first step towards object-oriented programming. So let's get into it. So, before we go into how to write a function, we have to first define what exactly it is. So it's basically a block of organized, reusable code that is used to perform a single task. Like if we have a single task that we want to do, like adding two numbers, we can make a function out of that and reuse the code instead of having to add the functions over and over again, instead of just pass those values inside. It allows us to add more functionality to a program. We can add an addition method by simply calling it instead of making it over and over again. Most of the time, it can allow us to do complicated tasks, like just the sheer amount of complexity that we can add to this is ginormous. This is a huge opportunity to do so, because so far we've been doing very limited programs, but this will unlock a new key to a door which has a huge staircase up, which will allow us to do way more complicated tasks. Like, for example, we can find the day of the month by simply giving day, month of a year. So, or sorry, day of the week, my bad. Okay, so this is the syntax, but okay. So now we'll go into syntax of the function, but I'll kind of go over it in the next slide and kind of talk about it. So basically, this is the function. Uh, it has the def or define, and it stands for and it says for define, and here's where the name is given. Okay, and then it ends with a and then ends with a colon, exactly how like an if elif statement ends with, right? So the name here always has a parentheses at the end. Don't worry about what exactly an argument is. We'll go into that a little bit later, and don't exactly worry about what a return value is. For now, we're just going to go into the define name, parentheses, colon, and then statements. This is called the method prototype. The first line is called a method prototype. You don't exactly need to know like what exactly like it is or like what does it mean, but it's basically like the define name, parentheses, and then colon. Now let's go into some code. Oh yeah, 1 second. And also you see like this statement, you see these statements here? Here's like the body. So if this function gets called, this statements will run exactly like an if statement, except this needs to be called instead of it automatically checking. Because if you remember, for if statement, it only runs this body of code if the condition is true. This only runs this statement of code if this is called, or called means like if you use the function. And remember, all the statements have to be indented. Okay, so let's go into some code. Let's kind of like dive deep into like what exactly we're talking about. So please open your VS Code or any platform that you're using. And if you're using VS Code, press open file, and then find your folder. Press open, and then you see the code here. So then you can just add a new file. Just type in functions. Pi. So now we have a blank canvas, and um um I'll keep doing it over and over again just to kind of like get you used to VS Code a little bit more, because VS Code is not only used for Python, it's used for a lot of other stuff. So getting a grasp on VS Code is pretty useful and pretty important. But for Python, VS Code is really good as well. Okay, so now let's basically do a sample function. So just say we make a new function called say hello, print hello. We'll just have that as our function. Okay, so basically, remember, we do the define. This is very important because it tells Python that this is a function, and then this is the function name, right? And then this is the parentheses. It always ends in a parentheses. Just always put that there and always put a colon. And you may be wondering why this is erroring. Because we didn't put any code inside. So now let's say print hello. Okay. This is the most basic type of function we can write. Basically here we do the define print hello, and then we have the parentheses. Very important. This is called the method prototype. Method prototype, as I said before. And this is the function, no, this is a statement that is being run because of this. So now if I just call print hello. Okay, you may be confused what I did there. I didn't put the define there, right? And I didn't put a semicolon. But the thing is, this is a huge difference, right? This makes the function and this calls the function, right? So if I don't do this, right? If I run it, nothing happens. You see this? Nothing, it doesn't print hello. So this has to be called. You have to call that function in order to print hello. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in print hello. Now if I press run, now it prints out hello. So basically this first part makes the function, and once you don't put the define or the colon, you call the function here, which is a huge difference. Because if you don't put this, it does nothing. The function does not get called and print, and this print statement does not do anything. But unless you actually call the method, so basically Python will look at line 1 and it won't do anything. Line 2 won't do anything because it's a function. It's not being called yet. Line 3 is just a blank line. And then line 4, okay, now it's saying, oh, I remember this method called print hello that I saw in line 1. Now this is calling it. So now I'll go back to line 1, read it, go below, and then print hello. That's a rhyming there. I did not mean to do that. Okay, so basically this calls the method and this outputs the method. This outputs. So this is the function and it needs to be called in order to be used. So it's print hello. And then once this is called, the blocks underneath the function will get called. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's have another example here where you say print hello, and we do it. We do it around 7 times, right? We do print hello 7 times. This is absolutely not useful, right? Because we can just have this, right? So now we can replace this with this. So print hello exactly like we had before, right? And we can just copy this instead. So now that print is only in 1. So that means it also reduces the possibility of errors because, for example, you can just mistakenly put dot after, right? Hello, and then you put hello dot and then hello, hello, even though you want everything to be same. But because the same print method is being called each time, that prevents a lot of errors. So let's try to do that. Okay, now we'll print hello 7 times. Okay. But this is where we can put in loops that we learned before. Why not just have a loop, a for loop, because we know how many times it's being run, so we use a for loop. For I in range 7. And then we just do print hello. And then all of this can be deleted. And if I run it, same output. So basically, we can use functions to minimize errors and then use a for loop to do everything we wanted to in so few lines. And this is the magic of coding right here. It's all about how you approach problems. Okay. Let's go back to the slides. And now it's time for us to learn how useful functions can be, because it can be super useful. So functions also have these two types. They're called parameters and they're called return types. Parameters are basically additional information we pass into functions for extended functionality. And it allows us to do something with the values, and we use parameters all the time. For example, in our print method, right? Print can be a function. Print is a function, actually. Print is a function, and we pass in a value we want to be printed, and then it prints it out. So for example, the parameter here is hello world, and then this is the function. So like, you see here, right? How we have the print hello? Print is a function. That's why it's highlighted the same exact color. So print is a function, and inside the function, you're passing in a value of hello world. And what basically the print does, it prints it out to the screen. So basically, the hello world is a parameter here. So we already been using this. And next is return types. So basically, once a function does a certain value, we want it to return something, to replace it. And it returns any of the data types, and it makes functions extend normal code, which is very, very important. We'll dive more into this in the next code part, which is right after this slide. So now I'll just go over all of this overall again. So we have the define keyword right here, and we have the function name, right? And then we have the parameter. Remember, there could be multiple parameters, which we'll kind of go into as well when we start coding as well. And then there's a semicolon. This is exact same. This first line is exact same except without the parameters. And then inside we have the body of statement. And then afterwards we have the return expression, function return. Basically what this does is if you call this function, right? If you call this function, the place where you put the function, it'll get replaced with the return value. So the return value will be the function. So once it does a certain action, like adding two numbers, you can return the total. And that's super, super useful. We'll go into that when we code. But if you have any questions with this, please be sure to email please be sure to email me and join the weekly tutoring sessions as we have, and then we can help answer your questions as well. So basically, this is the define. This tells Python this is a function. I put the function name, parentheses, and inside the parentheses, you can put your parameters. It can be multiple, and then statement. And this is like the statements. Once the function has been called, this will run, and then you can return an expression as well. Okay, let's do some practice problems with this. So please take a few minutes and pause to see if you can do this. And then once that, you can unpause and we can try to do it together. So pause now, please. Okay. So let's go through one by one. The first thing, define get name, and inside the parameters, we have name. And then we have return, name plus you are the best. And then you put get name, you call the method, right? And then you pass in a value, exactly what we did for the print. Remember the print, exactly the same. And it just puts that here. And then, so name is you all, and then you all plus are the best. But the thing is, nowhere is it printing anything. So this prints nothing. Hopefully that makes sense. We'll go more in depth to this when we start coding as well. The next one, addition, num1 and num2. So here, we're asking whoever's calling the function to give num1 and num2 so that the total can be calculated and then returned. So basically, here we call addition, which we have done before when we coded just a few minutes ago, and we pass in 2 and 5, right? So now the 2 becomes num1 and the 5 becomes num2. So now we do total is equal to 2 plus 5. So return 7, right? So 2 plus 5 is 7. And then you replace 7 with the addition 2 plus 5. So there's print 7 here. So then you print 7, so it just prints 7 there. Another example here, addition 12 and 2. 12 gets passed in as num1 and 2 gets passed in as num2, right? Because it goes in the order. Addition, you're calling the function, then you're putting 12 and 2. Then you're saying total is equal to num1 plus num2. Num1 is 12, num2 is 2. So 12 plus 2 is 14. So total is a container with the value of 14. And then we return total, and total is 14. So we return 14 here. The return replaces the addition 12, comma 2. It replaces the entire thing, and it says print 14, and it just prints it out to the screen as 14. Okay, now we have this name combiner. It gets first name and last name, and name is equal to hello plus first name plus space plus last name. Okay, first name is equal to John, last name is equal to Smith, and then we do print name combiner, first name, not last name. So now we're passing in. This can get kind of confusing because first name, first name, first name, first name, last name, last name, first name, first name, last name, last name. Too confusing. But think about it. This does not get called unless we call it. So ignore this entire thing right now. Ignore it. The first line we have to start considering is first name is equal to John, last name is equal to Smith. Okay? Then we do print name combiner, first name, comma, last name. So now imagine first name as John. John is first name and last name is Smith because we already defined the variables here. So just replace the values with that. Okay? So first name is John, last name is Smith. Now we put those values inside of here. We pass those in. So John is first name, Smith is last name now, right? So now name is equal to first name plus space plus last name. So first name is John. Oops, 1 second. First name is John, last name is Smith. So it's hello plus John plus space plus Smith, and we return name. So now hello John Smith is the return. So now we replace name combiner, first name, comma, last name, with hello John Smith, and it prints it out. Okay, this takes, hopefully you're kind of getting the grasp of it. You don't need to know everything right now, but through practice preparation, hopefully you can get this soon with the homework as well. But like now we'll actually start coding. We'll start coding and kind of get more of a idea of what's happening. So now let's make a new function. Let's call it define even or odd. Okay. And then let's just do a placeholder here. Okay. So basically, we just made a new function called define even or odd with the parentheses, remember? This is exactly what we did before. Okay. So now let's add parameters. So we need even or not. So basically this function's goal is to see the number passed in, if it's an even number or if it's an odd number. So now we need to know what number we're talking about, right? So we're expecting a value called num. So whoever is calling this method also need to pass in a number as well. Okay. So now we need to just do let's just rename it is even is probably a better name because we can just return a Boolean. Okay, so now we can utilize if statements. So if num modulus 2 is equal to 0, return true, else return false. So basically what I did here is first I made a new function called isEven, and I passed in a number, right? We need a number to see if it's even, right? Then we do if num modulus 2. So modulus, if you remember from our first or from our second class, we had like the big sheet of all like the syntax. Modulus was one of them, and modulus basically does like it basically checks the remainder. So if number is 10, so number remainder of 2 is 0. There's no remainder there. But if num is 11, so 11 modulus 2, the remainder is 1. So like the modulus finds out the remainder. So if the remainder is 0, which goes in perfectly, right? Then the number is even, right? Because it's a multiple of 2. And if it's not, then you just return false because it is not even. That's basically the thing that we did today. So now let's type in, let's just call it. So is even, let's just type in 11. Let's see how it is. Let me comment all this out. So let's run it. It didn't do anything. Because we just returned something. So if we pass in 11, right? So is even, we're calling is even. Number is 11. So 11 is num now, right? Because we're passing in the value. Because the parentheses 11, and we're passing it into this. So this is 11. Okay, just ignore the error because I want to kind of show this. So now we're doing if number is 11. So if 11 modulus 2 is equal to 0, which is not true, it returns false. So now this entire thing is false, but it doesn't know what to do with it. So now we have to print it out. Hopefully that made a little bit more sense instead of just me going over like what exactly doing. I deleted code in order for you to see what's happening here. So this will just be false, right? But let's print it out. Print is even. Let's see how this is. So now let me run it. Now it prints out false. So if I do 8, because that's an even number, now it's true. See that? This allowed us to do more complicated tasks, and we can take this to a whole nother level, which we will do very, very soon later on in the course. But this is basically how functions work. And you can add multiple parameters, like you can do num, and then you can do num2, and you need to give another value. And then you can do whatever you want with num1, num2, and you can do exactly what we did before. You can do modulus num2 if you want. Yeah, so this works exactly the same. Okay. Let me go back to the slides. Okay, for homework, there's 3 homeworks for this class. So in the comments, or you can kind of like explain what functions are and what can be added to a function. Create a function calculator that calculates 2 numbers and an operator. Depending on the operator, it should calculate the 2 numbers and return it. Uses functions and if, elif, and else statements. For example, in the function prototype, which is the first line, it gets 2 numbers and it gets 1 operator. And based on the operator, it will either add the 2 functions, minus the 2 functions, multiply the 2 functions, or divide the 2 functions. So here you need the if, elif, and else statements to figure out what operator it is, and then based on the operator, you can just do the operation. Or you don't need if, elif, and else statements if you know casting. So I'll leave that up to you. And then third, create the image in the right using functions and for loops. So I'll give you a big hint, right? You can have a function that prints out this, and you can have a function that prints out this, and then you can have another function that prints out these dashes, and then you just call this function for and then after you just make a for loop, you call this, and then you just print out the line at the end. So that's a huge hint. But yeah, and it's a huge step towards progress. So keep up the good work, and I'll see you when we go over the homework. And thank you so much for watching.